All right, and the previous program was Resistance Radio with John Kane, and that is heard Mondays. I said Mondays. Ugh. Thursdays at 3 p.m. here on WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org online. And before we go into the next program, which happens to be Take Charge of Your Health, I just wanted to remind people you can always donate to this institution by calling 833-922-4692 or 833-WBAI-NYC. Also, a programming note starting next Wednesday, which is April Fool's Day, April 1st. We're going to be starting our spring fund drive here. I have yet to find out what our goal will be, but, we'll find out about that around that time, hopefully. So, prepare yourself, because we will still provide you the programming you expect from us here on a daily basis, but we will emphasize the importance and the necessity of having an institution like WBAI and Pacifica Radio at large by humbly asking for your financial support. So just keep that in mind. But if you want to be ahead of the curve and want to say, hey, I want to donate now. Well, you know what? I'm going to recite the number again, 833-922-4692 or 833-WBAI-NYC. If you want to become a buddy, which is a listener sustainer, and all that means is that rather than just give one giant lump sum of money, you can spread it out throughout the calendar year as little as $5 a month. And you can go to buddy.wbai.org. That's buddy.wbai.org. And last and certainly not least, you can send a check or money order to this radio station. Write this address down if you haven't written it already. WBAI Pacifica Radio, 388 Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11217. All right, I'm going to say it again. WBAI Pacifica Radio, 388 Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11217 is the zip code. All right, it's 1 minute past 4 p.m. Stay tuned for Take Charge of Your Health coming up here on WBAI New York and WBAI.org online. Here we go.
Hi, this is Take Charge of Your Health with Corinne Furnari, clinical nutritionist, physician assistant, and Carol Petersen, pharmacist. Listen, learn, and I hope you enjoy the show. Bye.
Welcome back. This is Take Charge of Your Health with Corinne Furnari, clinical nutritionist and physician assistant, and my co-host, Carol Petersen, pharmacist. Every week, we present you with new and creative ways to help you make sense of health information and bring it home to you and your family. With years of clinical experience between us and research into traditional and cutting-edge technologies, we give you practical information to help you take charge of your health.
Welcome back. I'm here with my co-host, and we're enjoying ourselves in the spring, but I just had a sign that said I was muted, but I realized I wasn't, so it made me hesitate. And so today we have a special topic, and it's a topic every one of us know about, but do we? There's a lot more depth to this topic than we understand or that's shared when you're talking about this topic. And this is called adaptogens. And so clinical pharmacology Adaptogens are classified as metabolic regulators that increase an organism's nonspecific resistance to stressors. To be classified as a true adaptogen, a botanical must be three non negotiable criteria. It must be non toxic at a therapeutic dose. It must provide a non specific response to physical and emotional stressors, and it must exert a bidirectional modulation of physical function to restore homeostasis. What do you think about that, Carol? I'm here with my co host, Carol, and we're going to dive in. We're also going to ask you to join us because we know you've had experience with the adaptogens, and we're going to discuss it. And there's two ways that you can join in. It's 212-209-2877. You can call that number, and or we're live right now on YouTube. Take charge of your health. You could go to your computer and you can type a question into us and we'll answer all of them. Carol, welcome.
On YouTube, we are Take Charge of Your Health Radio, correct? Is where you need to find us.
I always forget that part.
I know there's too many details in our
details.
Lives, just too many. So I went to a conference last weekend, and it was the International College of Integrative Medicine, which I dearly love. It's a small medical group, really some of the most intelligent and sympathetic doctors you'll ever meet, because they are truly concerned about finding the best path forward for their patients. And
for healing. They're not suppressing symptoms. They're looking for healing, where the problem originates and how to work with it to heal a patient, which is generally not the mandate of which doctors are taught, which unfortunately, go on, Carol, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We want answers, right? We want to help these people get well, retain their health for long periods of time. And so one of the speakers, and actually one of the best speakers, was David Winston, who is a herbologist. He's not got a medical degree, but I was delighted to sit next to him at dinner and find out a little bit more about him. And from the time he's been 8 years old, he has just been fascinated with looking at herbs, and he's built himself quite a reputation in this field, and he's built a school for training herbologists, and he's in demand as a speaker all over the place. So it was my pleasure to meet him. And his topic was the topic we are inspired to do today, the adaptogenic herbs. And I think that number 3 point, I want to expand on it. An adaptogenic herb helps you both ways. If you have something that's over-functioning, it calms it down. If you have something that's under-functioning, it helps support. Corinne and I were just talking just before the program, and one of the things that came up was that we always felt this had everything to do with the adrenal glands, that your fight and flight and system.
And the adrenal glands were worn out, unable to function, unable to release their hormone.
Right, but one of the characteristics of adaptogenic herbs is you have to show that it is affecting the hypothalamus and the pituitary and the adrenal glands. There's some direct connections between all of those symptoms. So go ahead.
It's interesting because we as practitioners, and I know that I've shared this and worked in this way are taught, even holistic practitioners were taught that all the stress is focused on the adrenals, and the adrenals have become weak as a result of the stress. But ancients understood that it's in the mind, it's in the brain. And these adaptogenic herbs are working on the hypothalamus. They're working in the brain to work with the adrenals. And that's a very interesting, that changes our relationship to these herbs and what they're doing for us. Go on, Carol.
Well, I was relating to you also that I had been at the Integrative Health Symposium meeting some years ago, and there was a vendor selling a fermented red ginseng. And so the person at the booth had a 3-ring binder and opened it up, and he was showing me the individual molecules that were part of this herb. And I was so surprised because what I saw was 4-ring structures like cholesterol, as we make all our sex and adrenal hormones from cholesterol. So they were called ginsenosides. And they looked like basic material like our cholesterol for the plant. And I thought, that makes so much sense that with that 4-ring structure, with that plant, that we would have some effect on our bodies where our hormones would normally be operating, the adrenal hormones, sex hormones, vitamin D, bile, whatever. It made so much sense. But yet, I had never looked until today. I said, but I wonder if that's true of all adaptogens, that they have to have this backbone, like cholesterol.
Steroid back.
Right.
Cholesterol
And
steroid.
I found out no.
No, because we're dealing with different. It's like saying attention deficit. Now, the attention deficit can be very aggressive and angry. It could be withdrawn. It can be, you're dealing with different reactions to stress and overstimulation. So each of the adaptogens have different effects on the body. But the strategic quality of the adaptogens is narrowing the gap in the stress between heterostasis and homeostasis. And homeostasis is a normality to the body, the phase of the body that is healthier. It allows you to go up and become active if you need to, and it allows you to relax. The nature of what we're dealing with now in this modern society is called wired and tired. Someone's so tired they can barely make it to the bed. They lie down on the bed and their head is just racing and racing and racing and racing. And then they sleep, and then they wake up exhausted. It's called wired and tired. And this is when, sometimes what will happen? You'll be given a sleeping pill, or you'll be given a pill that gives you energy. You don't really need those. You need something that creates the balance that allows you to fully function within your life, and if possible, make changes to help yourself function better. And that's what adaptogenics are all about. And like I said, the ancients understood this. Took us a little while to get it, but the ancients understood this. When you're dealing with traditional Chinese medicine, they understand adaptogens when they're used, and not every adaptogen is good for every person. and the Indians understood this. The Ayurvedic medicine understood this, and they also used adaptogens. One of the widest used adaptogen, which is also good for all ages, is the ashwagandha. It's called horse sweat because it smells like a horse has been running and sweaty, but what happens with ashwagandha, it's a very mild yet strong balancer. It works in so many areas. By the fact that you're balancing the hormones, you're balancing the brain. It's given for increasing sexuality, to increase the sense of sexuality. It's given to males and females. It's given to help with pregnancies. It's given to support stress situations, multiple stress situations. It is a very broad spectrum herb that's not too strong but not too weak, and it helps the body go back into their state of homeostasis. So I'm going to put that one up there as number one.
Oh, maybe so. It's one I like. I think I get good adrenal support from it. I did have the occasion to go to a place where they were selling an ashwagandha, or it's also known as withania. You might see it named that.
Withania, yes.
Yes, and so I was with somebody, and we each tried a sample, and I didn't feel much of anything. I felt nice and steady, and not my friend, actually. He was already a wired guy, and this didn't seem to help him at all. He just said, that's really not for me. And I use this to kind of expand on what you said. Not every adaptogen is good for every person in different circumstances. So I don't know. He was kind of a wired guy anyway, but maybe it was an underdose for him. Could have been. That he did not get full effect from it. But it's the other thing David Winston was saying. It sometimes is we've lost this. I call it allopathic herbology. Like, okay, we're going to use withania, and we use so much every day, just as you would do in allopathic medicine. And the real herbalist would examine you as the individual you are and do a blend specifically for you and the situation you are in. So that's another piece of herbology that we have to remember. It may not be a single source thing that gives you the best results. It could be a blend that is designed particularly for you. And we've kind of lost that skill. I was in Louisiana.
Yes, because you're expected to get a pill.
Yeah.
You're supposed the pill takes care of the symptom, and so that's that's the way we think.
This traditional herbology actually was banned in Louisiana, and I knew about it, and I happened to be someplace with a restaurant and bar, and I talked to the bartender, and she told me she had put in many years studying herbology, and now she could no longer work in that field. Well, it's rather shocking.
I would think Louisiana,
of all places,
would have buckets of herbologists and herbs and herbal medicine and traditional treatments. I would think so. But there's a clinical assessment protocol that clinicians can utilize, and there are objective markers that you can utilize in your home, in your own home. One is Regland's sign, and that's compare your blood pressure. Take your blood pressure when you're lying down, and then stand up and take your blood pressure. A failure of the systolic, the first reading, the highest reading, to rise by at least 8 points, or a drop in blood pressure, indicates that your HPA-Axis is dysregulated. You're lying down, you're resting, you should have one blood pressure. You stand up, you need to stand up, you need to be focused, you need to be ready to move. Your blood pressure has to come up to meet the needs, and that's called the Reglan sign. Another one is also very easy, is the pupil constriction test. And you take a pen light and you shine it into the eye, and you just get your phone and you're watching 30 seconds. Now, what will happen is your eye will constrict. The pupil of the eye will constrict. And what happens is that by 30 seconds, if the pupil is starting to vibrate or has loosened, what has happened is it's telling you that it's showing you have reduced adrenal resilience, so that you don't have the resilience to hold the muscle tight under the stress of the light. And then there's
on a questionnaire, these are the people who will complain that they're very sensitive to bright lights. And it's because they can't hold the constriction. Their eyes, the pupils widen, and that's very uncomfortable feeling. So that's how it'll appear in an intake questionnaire.
Interesting. I didn't think of that one. Then there's a 4-point cortisol panel where you use saliva samples, one in the morning, one in the middle of the day, one before bed, or one in the late afternoon and one before bed. And you compare them because your cortisol has a rhythm. It's higher in the morning, it starts to go down, it goes down lower, and at night it's the lowest of the entire day. Now, if you eat lunch and your cortisol drops out afterwards, you had lunch and you're exhausted, or the pause that refreshes, that was the 1920s advertisement for coffee, to get people to drink coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, get them all wired and going. The pause that refreshes.
Yeah, that's the adrenal low point for the day. And everybody looks for a nap, they look for salt, they look for sugar, they look for tea, they look for coffee, anything to build up some cortisol in your body. So that can be a real problem for people. They have such a tremendous slump in the afternoon.
Yes, and that is a point where at that point, you might want to look into adaptogens that create a more balanced cortisol throughout the day. Now, there's one thing that, was it Dr. Winston? Was it Winston?
Yeah.
Was talking about. He was talking about quality of the herbs and how you have to be aware of the quality of the herbs. And you want it USP, United States Pharmacopoeia verification, or you want it GMP, Good Manufacturing Practice, seals to ensure identity and purity. And he says he's found multiple herbs with high heavy metals, and one of them was rhodiola. And he's identified arsenic, cobalt, and lead in herbal capsules. And then there's another thing, is that, and we always talk about this all the time also, is adulteration awareness. And what happens is you might have a very weak, he found it in rhodiola, the study was done in rhodiola, that they didn't really have rhodiola that had any strength to it or any vitality to the herb. And so they put in a stimulant in there so people would feel something from it while they were using an adulterated weak herb. So I always work with, and I know Carol does also, with companies that I really trust. There's a lot of companies out there, and there's a lot of good ones. I don't know all the good ones. I know the ones I know, and there was a point in many years ago that I was working with a lab from Europe. It was called European Laboratory of Nutrients, and we would take supplements. I'd go into a store and buy supplements and take them to the lab and evaluate them for their potency. And I saw that all the time. So I have my favorites who I like to use, and some of them are the oldies and goodies. I've never done this with a lot of the new things that are out. But if I know the manufacturers, I have more faith and trust in them. But what do you do, Carol?
Yeah, there is another thing with herbs, and it's quite the craft. Herbology is, because you need to know what part of the plant gives you what you want or don't want. Sometimes it's the root, sometimes it's the flowers, sometimes it's the leaves, and there's actually the best time to harvest it. And all of these plant materials are very dependent upon where it's grown. And I would give as an example, so if you have a good oregano, for instance, it has not an adaptogen, it has other properties. It's very much an antibacterial, anti-parasite thing, but you have to pick that oregano in the high mountains. And that's where the plant is the most stressed, makes the strongest oils. So you could buy
the
oregano.
Least oxygen, so they have to work hard.
Right, you can buy oregano in the grocery store to put on your pizza crust, and it might not have near the potency of the oregano that was carefully selected. So that's another thing with various companies. You can and should probably find out what their processes are to ensure that their herbs are the best quality that there are. I'd like to talk about, how about one of my favorite,
Go on.
another one of my favorites, licorice. And I
Now
recommend
that is
licorice a lot.
that is not a true adaptogen.
But it comes in the next list, I think, possible adaptogens. I've personally experienced that pulling me from, I thought I was dying, and fortunately, I was hiking in Mount Rainier in the winter, and it was extremely stressful because very hard work. And I got to a point where I didn't know if I would make it back to our car. But I did, and we found a restaurant, and what did they have? Licorice tea. And about 4 or 5 cups later, I felt human again. I got my energy back. So when you're at this situation where you're extremely stressed, the cortisol, you've like burned out all your cortisol, and that seems to help, particularly the corticosteroid part of your adrenal glands.
Yeah, it supports the DHEA in that pathway and the cortisol. So, but you want to be aware of licorice because it sometimes can raise blood pressure. You have to just be aware. If you and like for you or me, that's not a problem. But people with blood pressure sensitivity, not the best idea. But I'm going to go through 5 of them. Panax ginseng. It tonifies qi and yang. Qi is the essence of life. It tonifies your essence of life, and yang is your kidney. and your kidney supports immune resilience and modulates, and these are studies that have been done, natural killer cell activity. Pretty good stuff. And it stimulates, it's stimulating, it's hot. It's best for stage 3 and 4 patients with physical depletion. It's not for stage 1, and it's not for hypertension. People with hypertension, there are forms of ginseng you can use, but the strong Panax ginseng is not really indicated. Then, do you want me to go through them all, or do you want to bounce them back and forth, Carol?
That's no. You can go through it all. I just want to say, we are talking. You can get in the Chinese markets and other places, even health food stores.
Oh, I love those.
Those little bitty sippy things when you need a boost.
Vials.
Yeah, you have a little straw to put in the top, and you just suck it down. That's an extract of Panax ginseng, and can be very, very helpful. Asians love Panax ginseng for longevity, even to age well.
And what is it that your hair doesn't go gray when you use it?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Or is that full tea?
Yeah,
Then there's
tea is the famous one, but ginseng too.
then there's ashwagandha. Again, it modulates the HPA-Axis and enhances thyroid function, supporting the T4 to T3 conversion. T4 is the hormone that your thyroid makes in large amounts, and conversion to T3, which it makes in very small amounts, but is very active. So it supports the conversion to active usable thyroid. And constitutional fit, the people that it would be best for, is it's calming, it's nourishing, ideal for the wired and tired type of person, stage 2, and those needing to anchor the mind. So it's very good for the mind. Now, the thing about, I'm going to regress a little bit. Adaptogens have been studied in modern times. It began in Russia in 1947, a very aggressive studying because they needed to create or support a superhuman man that could tolerate the cold, that could resist fatigue. And they started doing extensive studies on rhodiola. So a lot of the work on rhodiola is from Russia, began in 1947, but then continued with Europe and the States beginning to study it extensively in the 1960s. So rhodiola, it tonifies the lung, and chi, so the lung and your essence, and promotes blood flow. It enhances mental focus and blunts catecholamine-induced cardiac strain. It increases your body's...
Can I just
Go on.
interject? When you say catecholamines, you actually, the things that you actually mean are adrenaline and noradrenaline. It's the wired part of the tired and wired.
Exactly.
It's the adrenaline that's doing that.
When you... exactly. Thank you. So what happens is it helps your body hold oxygen. I remember one Olympics, remember, Carol, where they were wondering how the Russians had such stamina, and they discovered that all the Russians were on rhodiola. All of their athletes were on rhodiola.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's stimulating and beneficial for chronic fatigue, depression, and cognitive decline. So it increases circulation. It increases your ability to hold and maintain oxygen, which will help your brain and all your organs. Then now your urethra, Erythrocenticosis, excuse me.
Is it Eleuthero? Eleuthero?
Eleuthero, I just went blank on
Eleuthero.
that one.
I
And
know that's the American ginseng, right? Eleuthero
exactly.
senaceous, I think, is the other part of it. American ginseng.
And
it's
it
not really
tonifies spleen
Yeah,
and
it's not
kidney and
really
chi.
ginseng though. It's not in the
No.
Panax ginseng family. It's another plant entirely.
And it improves physical endurance and oxygen utilization, similar to rhodiola, and manages HSV frequency. So, chronic herpes virus, it helps to manage that. And the fit is neutral, someone who's not too hyper, too reduced, but best for those who work hard and barely sleep. So it's a very nice supportive. And then astragalus. Astragalus is interesting in that it supports the immune system. It elevates spleen and lung qi. It increases interferon levels and modulates white blood cell function. So whenever you have astragalus, you're usually dealing with immune function. And the FIT is immune modulator, prevents recurrent URIs, upper respiratory infections, and is not to be used during acute fever or infection. So that's a very basic.
There's another astragalus thing, if I could put into this.
Go right ahead.
There's a product on the market, and actually is doing very well sales wise, and it's made with a concentrated astragalus, and it's been shown to increase telomeres. So it's a product you can use as an anti-aging substance. The theory is the telomeres are the end of your DNA strands. They've been compared to like the little ends on shoestrings. Think of the telomeres over there. And every time your DNA splits, that telomere becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. And this particular concentrated astragalus product has been shown to stop that process and even lengthen the telomere. So I must be working because the company is doing very, very well. And this can be tested. Telomere length is one of the aging tests you can do.
So, well, the telomere test, the only really good one is out of Spain. It's very hard. The others are not really validated. And this astragalus that you're talking about is from is from an area of Mongolia. It's very rare, and what happens is that there's not a lot of it. So the extract you're talking about, you literally have to know someone, you reserve it, and it's expensive as heck. So, but it is working, so they're studying it. Then there's cordyceps, which is lion's mane mushroom, and very important for autoimmune disorders. And autoimmune disorders are an imbalance of your body and the body system. And what the cordyceps do is help put it all back into balance, which is the definition of a adaptogen. And then they also use glandulars, but glandulars are not for long-term use. And if you use the glandular, like the adrenal glandular, for too long, it's similar to using cortisol at too high or too long, because it suppresses the endogenous cortisol. So you're not getting accurate feedback when you use glandulars for consistently for longer than 6 months, as per Dr. Winston. Now, so I'm going to give the phone number out again, 212-209-2877. It's now a little past half of the show. I know that people are there and going to want to share their thoughts, and we're here to talk with them. It's 212-209-2877, or you can type in to Take Charge of Your Health Radio, YouTube, and we'll be glad to answer. We're also going to spend about 10 extra minutes at the end of the show. The show will close and we will be on YouTube and continue talking about this subject because it is very interesting and it's important for you to understand so you can utilize these modalities to balance yourself. We're talking about balance, and we're talking about it from the brain level, not from, you're not balancing at the symptom level, you're balancing at the brain that's creating this. So there's metabolic cofactors that Winston talked about also. One is tyrosine. What do you think of tyrosine, Carol?
Well, tyrosine is actually extremely important because you need it to make thyroid hormone. When you talk about T3 and T4, it is a combination of tyrosine with iodine. So 3 iodines with T3 and 4 with T4. So, and there's a T1 and a T2. It also is a precursor for making neurotransmitters like dopamine needs to have some tyrosine to make it. I'm not usually using that very much. Do you have some clinical experience with tyrosine?
Yes. I give it to people to support their thyroid function, to feel a little brighter. And I've taken it also. It works, like you said, from dopamine. So people feel very well when they take tyrosine, 100 to 150 milligram in the morning. You take it in the morning. It could keep you up. And like you said, it's a catecholamine precursor to offset acute stress and helps in the case of fatigue. I love it as an amino acid. But another one that Winston was talking about is phosphatidylserine. Now, that's unique in that it blunts the overproduction of ACTH and modulates cortisol spikes in physical stress. I remember when people discovered phosphatidylserine and all the studies of phosphatidylserine were coming out of Italy and talking about it as an antidepressant and protecting the brain. And Winston says about 800 milligrams daily. It's interesting, it's very good for joint pain. Do you use it?
No, but this ACTH is adrenocortical hormone. And it, it's produced by the pituitary to increase the cortisol production. And one of the physical signs when it's excessive is you get some browning of your skin, particularly on your neck. If that's coming up, that can be a sign of too much ACTH. So here you have something to deal with it.
To create the balance again. We're talking about adaptogens, creating the balance. Wonderful. Then there's B vitamins, B2, B3, B5, essential for glycolysis and the Krebs cycle, critical cofactors for ATP generation in stage 4 mitochondrial dysfunction. Stage 4 of the adrenal or the HPA-Axis extreme or advanced reaction. Stage 4 is when you've been wired and tired for so long. The end result is that your mitochondria, you have mitochondrial dysfunction. And when you get to that stage, it becomes very difficult to turn this around, much more difficult. You're really going to have to pull out the stops and start giving your body the nutrients it needs and support it and the sleep it needs. A lot of this has to do with sleep. So you're working with sleep, with nutrients, with nutrition, with herbals, and glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So what we're talking about is creating energy from the Krebs cycle, and that's the B vitamins.
What about the product called Shilajit?
I'm not familiar with it.
So it actually is coming up on the adaptogenic thing or near adaptogens, but it is actually this kind of resin that oozes out of rocks, and they collect it. It's mineral rich, and is said to be very supportive for things like chronic fatigue. Kind of an interesting thing. I don't know the places that in the country it comes from, but it's harvested from a resin that's oozing from rocks.
I don't know it. Not familiar with it. I need to study it before. But for the circadian peak shifting, combine morning sunlight. Very important. Sleep in the darkness, and then the morning between 6 to 8 in the morning, even if it's overcast, get some sunlight in your eyes to start the energy for the day. Very important. With methylcobalamin, B12. Absolutely delicious. This synergy assists the circadian clock and starts it moving in shifting the cortisol secretion peak to the morning hours, improving nocturnal sleep quality. So if you wake up and you're exhausted and you're walking around drinking coffee, trying to get going, you're not turning your clock on. So at night, you're not going to be sleepy in the same way. But if you wake up and go right into the sunlight or the brightest light you can find, not lamps, but the brightest light you can find, and there's a beautiful, delicious methylcobalamin B12, and you take that at the same time, you're going to just boost yourself up, and your clock is going to turn on. And now you're ready to start your day. It's even better than coffee.
Well, here's the point I always wondered about, Corinne, because we say for sleep hygiene to sleep in the dark, and people have heavy curtains. But if you were living out in nature, you would have bright moonlight at least part of the month. And so I'm wondering with sleep hygiene why they block light entirely. Isn't that moonlight good for you too?
I think so.
Yeah, I sleep with an overhead window, and even though my bedroom's somewhat dark, it'll be brighter some nights and less bright other nights.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when I lived in Idaho, and after a snowstorm, I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking it was daylight. Because the moon was so full and the snow was so bright. I think it was daylight. It was really quite a unique experience and sensation, and beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that, yeah, sleep hygiene. When I work with people on sleep hygiene, I have them look at the clock and look at the month and see where the moon is, and then toward the end of the month when it's going into full moon to open up. But if you're buying these big lights from stores and stuff, that doesn't work. It doesn't work very well. So, for sleep hygiene and inflammatory control, we want to mandate fixed bedtimes before 11 p.m. to align with natural diurnal rhythms. Adopt an anti-inflammatory diet and to mitigate the oxidative damage characteristic of HPA dysregulation. So that
callers.
is,
We
yay,
have two
that
callers.
is wonderful. That is pretty much an outline of Dr. Winston. And so let's see. Okay. Hi, you're live. Your name, please.
AG,
AJ, hi.
Hi, AG.
how you doing?
Good.
Terrific. How are you?
Not too well. I've been dealing with adrenal fatigue for a year now. Was running every day, overexerted myself, and ate the wrong sugary foods. And I've just been just around the bed and not being able to get myself up yet. I'm taking everything under the sun, adaptogens, licorice. I cut out all sugars except like a quarter of a sweet potato, Korean sweet potato, organic salmon and greens, and haven't seen any progress yet.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm
How
sorry.
about, do you eat meat, red meat as well?
Once in a while.
Okay. That can be really rebuilding, even if you just did it for a while.
And I would, yes, I would try to, if you're going to eat some meat, I would try to eat organ meats, some liver and and just organ meats, pancreas, liver, and try that, see if that helps.
My
Now,
diet
you're in a state of, pardon?
I don't really eat meat that I said once in a blue moon. My diet basically is organic salmon.
Well, that's good also. Salmon is very good. You need adequate protein. Now we warned everyone, but now everybody's calling. We've got about 4 callers, and we're going to be ending the show in 3 minutes. So I'm very frustrated. You can go over to Take Charge of Your Health Radio, and we'll continue this conversation. We'll be glad to answer your questions there. But you're at a lower stage. You really need some guidance because you should have responded to at least what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What you're doing. You should have responded. You need some saunas. You can get a sauna and do heavy detox, but not, I wouldn't, when you're this frail, I wouldn't do fasting. I would eat as pure and clean as I can, and I would even add some wonderful, healthful organic vegetable juices that you make in your home, but I wouldn't have you fast. You're already frail. I need to build you, not tear you down. What? I'm sorry.
I keep losing weight because my body's so nervous. It's too revved up.
Okay.
Exactly. So we have to think about how to calm you down, and but naturally, not
one herb
sedate you.
Before you go, that might help me calm down.
Perhaps the first one we talked about, withania.
Withania.
Yeah, ashwagandha.
And then there's there's another one called bluperum, BLUPERUM, and it's a Chinese herb, and it works with the liver to support the liver and to create calm. I'm sorry, I'm really going to have to say goodbye. Come on to the Take Charge of Your Health. I have 2 minutes, and I have to say goodbye. Carol.
Yes.
What's your website?
My website is thewellnessbydesignproject.com, and I have a YouTube channel with the same. And we are on Facebook, Take Charge of Your Health with Corinne and Carol. You can also personal message us there if you'd like to take your question to that site. And Corinne?
I'm CorinneHealth.com or FurnariHealth.com. And we have the Facebook. I have personal Facebook. And then we have the YouTube channel. And I want to thank both Reggie. Reggie, you make it seem easy. You do it so well, you make it seem easy. And Jeremy, thank you for helping us do this. So we're going right to YouTube. If you have more questions, please feel free to call us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And Carol, every time we're together, I learn. Thank you.
Likewise. It's the same thing.
Level of fatigue. I was so frustrated because they called us 4 minutes before the radio show ended. And I feel like we could have given some support, but we did the best we could. But go on, Carol. How would you approach him? I'll tell you how I would approach him.
Okay, so I would also look at hormones. Definitely. And when you're in this high adrenaline state, cortisol is compromised. He was using licorice, which would help feed that pathway, but progesterone and pregnenolone also important to feed that whole steroidal cascade to help balance the adrenaline. So that needs to be done. Also, you do have to be nourished. So the food would have to be super concentrated. You really have to make sure your nutrition is spot on, but you also have to make sure your digestion and minerals have to be there to absorb those things. You need stomach acid to absorb minerals, and you need stomach acid to break down protein so you can use it. So I think the gut may be a significant player in all this.
I also would, like I said, work with saunas and get them to sweat. And while they're sweating, I would have them drinking water and vitamin C in their water. And if possible, and take maybe a niacin capsule so they be the true niacin, so they get a little red, not too strong. You got to start slowly on this because we want the circulation to come to the skin and we want the toxins to be released. And so we would start out with the saunas and the good diet that you're talking about. I would also, I love pregnenolone. I think that could support him. And then that is, pregnenolone is an adaptogen. It just moves, the body takes it and uses it the way it needs it.
All over the place. Yep.
All over the place. So, pregnenolone would be brilliant. But then what else I would do is I would use, so we've got hormones, diet, we would deal with nutrition. I would also...
How about some amino acids before you get away from the protein?
Essential.
Yeah.
Essential. With every meal you want amino acids. You don't need buckets and buckets. You could use organic free range eggs. You can get them at the farmer's market. Very important. Good cholesterol. You need adequate cholesterol because your body needs to be able to make what it needs. It needs to be able to make the hormones. It needs to be able to make the neurotransmitters. But then there's something else I would do. I'd add peptides to the protocol. I would definitely add MOTC, MOTC, and that is for mitochondrial function. It helps support weakened and damaged mitochondria. And to go with that, I would do SS131. And first I would start with MOTC and then go to SS131. Both of those are specifically for mitochondrial function, but it helps the brain, it helps the heart, the entire body, because it will support the mitochondrial function. So there's a full program. It's a lot of work. I would also do something else, and this is really quite wonderful. I would have them do Tai Chi. I don't want heavy exercise. I don't want you to try to get up and try to run.
No, he already overexercised, which is
exactly.
That can be a tremendous strain on your body. Heavy exercise, heavy running, it's hard for your body to recover. And if you don't feed it the right nutrients and take rest, like your body forces you to bed. As he's saying, he has trouble getting up and doing anything. It's your body wants to heal, and it's going to go in this really low metabolic state to give you a chance to rest and relax, which you badly need.
And I had
you had a fleeting
thoughts, fleeting thoughts.
I hate those.
I know, it just zoom right, come and gone. But the protein is essential. But there is an HPA-Axis. We're not on the radio any longer. I like this metabolic formulas, HPA-Axis formula. It very supportive of the mitochondria, and we want to make sure your bowels are functioning. So this is a full program. I love the Tai Chi because it stretches without stress, and it'll keep you mobile. Very important. So, do we have any questions?
No, it doesn't look like it.
I really love Take Charge. I really love being able to answer questions of people, and it's really quite fun to have this extra time. So, I love working with herbs and adaptogens, and there are so many different ones that, but I really believe that there's a whole new frontier happening in peptides. They're just amazing. So working with someone who understands them and knows how to work with them, very important. And you might get results that are surprising. So,
shall we call it a day here?
Shall we call it a day? There are people watching. I see that, but I'm not getting questions. I don't see questions. So if you have questions, we'll give you another minute to write in and tell us what you want to hear. We'll be glad to answer them in any way we can to the best of our ability.
And we also can go back and answer it too if they put in a question.
Oh, yeah. If they put in a question later on, we'll
well,
watch it
okay.
and then.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right,
So,
Corinne. I also
very
always
good.
learn.
It's always fun.
wonderful. It's wonderful to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll see you next